The top story now, a day after being raided on allegations of corruption charges in its liquor policy, Delhi's Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia has charged the centre and Prime Minister Modi of misusing central agencies in order to stop the Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal because of his work in the education and health sector, which is making international headlines, referring of course to that front page shout out to the Delhi education model in the New York Times on Thursday.
Congress workers protesting outside the AAP headquarters in Delhi, a day after the CBI raided the residence of Delhi's Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia. The war of words among the Aam Aadmi Party, the BJP and the Congress continued on the second day. After the CBI carried out raids for 14 hours at 31 locations in 7 states, probing the alleged irregularities in the implementation of the liquor policy last year. Accused number 1, Delhi's Excise Minister Manish Sisodia denied of any wrongdoing.
सोर्सेज कह रहे हैं कि 1 करोड़ का घोटाला हुआ है, ये सीबीआई की एफआईआर कह रही है। इसमें ना 144 करोड़ का जिक्र है, ना 11,000 करोड़ का जिक्र है, 1100 करोड़ का, ना 8,000 करोड़ का मनोज तिवारी जी वाला जिक्र है। मैं कह रहा हूं कि ये सब बकवास है, ये सब बकवास कर रहे हैं। इस पूरी पॉलिसी में कोई घोटाला नहीं हुआ। इनकी परेशानी है अरविंद केजरीवाल। इनकी परेशानी है कि अरविंद केजरीवाल जिस तरह से अब पूरे देश में एक काम करने वाले ईमानदार नेता के रूप में पहचान बनाते जा रहे हैं और पूरे देश के लोग अब उनको पसंद करने लगे हैं, इनकी परेशानी ये है। और पंजाब के बाद तो पूरे देश में अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को एक राष्ट्रीय विकल्प के रूप में देखा जाने लगा है। इनकी परेशानी ये है। ये जो पूरी कार्रवाई मेरे खिलाफ हो रही है, ये जो पूरी कार्रवाई मेरे दफ्तर में हो रही है, मेरे घर में रेड डाली जा रही है, ये हो इसलिए रही है कि अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को रोकना चाहते हैं।
Both Sisodia and Union Minister Anurag Thakur speculated about an arrest soon.
इनको पता है कि कोई भ्रष्टाचार नहीं हो, इसीलिए उलझुल बके जाते हैं। इनको मैंने भ्रष्टाचार नहीं किया, मैंने सिर्फ इतना किया है कि अरविंद केजरीवाल जी का एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर हूं मैं, इसलिए ये कर रहे हैं, इसलिए ये साजिश रची जा रही है। इन्होंने पहले अरविंद केजरीवाल जी के हेल्थ मिनिस्टर को गिरफ्तार किया, फिर कल मेरे यहां रेड डाल दी, अब 2-4 दिन में मुझको भी गिरफ्तार कर लेंगे।
जेल में है सत्येंद्र जैन, अरविंद केजरीवाल जी के लेफ्ट हैंड, और अरविंद केजरीवाल जी के राइट हैंड मनीष सिसोदिया जी आरोपी नंबर 1 शराब घोटाले में है। वो कहां होंगे, किस हालत में होंगे, ये मैं नहीं कह सकता, ये समय ही बताएगा।
The BJP has alleged that Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal is the kingpin of corruption.
The accused number 1 of the liquor corruption is Mr. Manish Sisodia, but the kingpin of corruption is Arvind Kejriwal. आखिरकार अगर आपकी शराब नीति ठीक थी तो वापस क्यों ली?
Meanwhile, the Congress, which protested against the probe against its own leaders by the Enforcement Directorate in the National Herald case, barely a month back, welcomed the probe by the CBI, saying the two cases are not the same.
You became what I always knew he was, perhaps one of India's most dishonest persons, and perhaps one of the most dangerous to Indian politics. What is happening in the National Herald cases and what we are saying is that you already found out everything. So the raids are something that are not required. All data is available, all records have been available, all the evidence has been given, and we never protested against these people being called by ED. We only protested in the manner in which you are overdoing and you are making a display. You cannot complain when the agencies are doing their due diligence. And it is you who withdraw the niti. You took back this excise. Why did you take back the excise policy if it was so good?
Amid the political turmoil in Delhi, AAP changed its election campaign strategy, with AAP chief Arvind Kejriwal including Mr. Sisodia in his upcoming election tour of Gujarat. The CBI, after completing searches at multiple locations on Friday, started investigation today in the Delhi excise policy case. According to sources, 5 accused were summoned and questioned in the Delhi excise policy case today, but not Mr. Sisodia.
The offences listed by the Central Bureau of Investigation in its FIR are corruption, criminal conspiracy and falsification of the accounts. And while the agency has started with this investigation now, the political tussle between the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP over the issue is all set to escalate ahead of the upcoming state assembly elections in Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh. With camera person Sanjay Kaushik and Mohammad Mursaleen, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
So what's behind the timing of these raids? The Aam Aadmi Party claims that it is rooted in the BJP's recognition that Arvind Kejriwal is the only true real challenger to Prime Minister Modi. So is it going to be Modi versus Kejriwal in 2024, the next general elections? Joining us now, Jasmine Shah, spokesperson for the Aam Aadmi Party, Vice Chairman of the Delhi Government's Dialogue and Development Commission. We have Abhishek Dutt, spokesperson of the Congress, and Ajay Kumar Mahavar of the BJP, a BJP MLA from Delhi, joining us. So Mr. Mahavar, let me ask you, आपको पूछती हूँ पहले, इसके पीछे क्या है? ये रेड्स की टाइमिंग के पीछे क्या है? क्योंकि मिस्टर केजरीवाल ने अभी अनाउंस की है कि वो दे गोइंग नेशनल, आम आदमी पार्टी नेशनल जा रही है. ही इज अबाउट टू गो इन कैंपेन. उनको गुजरात में अभी कैंपेनिंग की प्लान्स है और फिर उसी समय ये रेड्स आ रही है. द बीजेपी क्या डर रही है? आम आदमी पार्टी कह रही है कि बीजेपी डर गई है क्योंकि अरविंद केजरीवाल इज डूइंग सो वेल. गुजरात, हिमाचल प्रदेश में इलेक्शंस आ रही है, इसीलिए these raids have now been placed against him.
4 राज्यों में सरकार बनाए हैं तो हम कैसे डरेंगे? उनसे पूछिए जिन्होंने अभी 359 सीटों पर उत्तर प्रदेश में जमानत जब्त कराई है, उत्तराखंड में 60 में से 58 में जमानत जब्त कराई है, उन्होंने गोवा में 35 में जमानत जब्त कराई है. तो हम क्यों डरेंगे? बात टाइमिंग की जहां तक आती है, कानून अपना काम कर रहा है. एलजी साहब ने जब रिकमेंड किया उसके बाद सीबीआई की रेड हुई है, या जब तक एलजी साहब ने नहीं किया रिकमेंड तब तक नहीं हुआ. तो इसमें डर कैसा है? अगर सच है तो दूध का दूध पानी का पानी हो जाएगा. आप डर तो आप रहे, आपके चेहरे पर डर दिख रहा है, केजरीवाल जी के और सिसोदिया जी के चेहरे पर डर दिख रहा है, फियर फैक्टर नजर आ रहा है. क्यों भाई? कानून का उल्लंघन अगर आपने किया है और कानून अच्छा था तो यूटर्न क्यों लिया? क्यों कानून को वापस लिया? क्योंकि आपको पता था कि भ्रष्टाचार के दलदल में नहीं, कंठ तक आप इसमें इसके भ्रष्टाचार में फंसे हुए हैं और बहुत से उसके कारण हैं. और उस कारण में आप जाएंगे तो इन्होंने कानून को बनाया भी गलत ढंग से और कानून की धज्जियां भी गलत ढंग से उड़ाई. उसको हम पॉइंट बाय पॉइंट डिस्कस कर सकते हैं.
All right. Jasmine Shah, let me ask you that, for once we have the Congress and the BJP in agreement. They're actually sounding like a chorus and they're both asking you that, this policy that was launched in November, you have liquor shops that were handed over to private players. Then in July, after this investigation was called for or initiated by the Delhi Police's Economic Offences Wing, Manish Sisodia rolled it back. So why roll it back if it was so good?
Sarah, I'm glad you asked the question. Before I answer why the policy was rolled back, let me make a very small point. Because every time this question of BJP raiding Aam Aadmi Party leaders comes up, the simple question they ask is, if you have nothing to hide, then what is there to, why do you fear it? Let me put it on record that yesterday we welcomed the investigation. 31 raids took place across the length and breadth of the nation. The question was, Mila kya? What did you get? Not a single incriminating evidence. Crores of rupees जो आप बोल रहे हैं कि scam हो गया कहाँ है? हीरे जवाहरात कहाँ है? Gold कहाँ है? कुछ नहीं मिला. Second thing, Sarah, yesterday evening CBI issued the FIR. If anybody takes the time to read that one-page FIR, it is a laughing stock on the name of CBI. The entire FIR is saying sources claimed so party and so party has connived with so and so party. Sources said this. Sources said that. If you had to rely on sources to do 31 raids across the nation, let's take cognizance of what the French government has ordered a investigation on Rafale. Let's go and recognize the fact that hundreds of people are dying in Gujarat because of illicit liquor, and let's start doing CBI raids in Gujarat. So it very clearly shows that this is nothing but a political stunt. Now, Sarah, let me come back to the important point you raised, which is why did the policy get rolled back? This is today the most transparent as well as a progressive excise policy. The entire policy was notified after the approval of LG. However, 2 days before it was supposed to be implemented in November of 2021, LG put in a condition which prevented these excise, the liquor shops, to be opened in 1/3 of Delhi, which is basically leading to a prohibition-like scenario. So the final plan of around 850 shops that were supposed to be open, because that is how the revenue realization happened. Agar shops nahi khulegi, to aapka revenue nahi realize hoga. Not just that, Sarah. Progressively, the excise department officials were threatened by Delhi police and LG office that please do not auction out, new shops in this policy. So you can have the best policy, but if BJP, which governs the law and order in the national capital, will not allow the policy to be implemented, then we didn't want a Gujarat-like prohibition in Delhi. That is the reason the policy was rolled back.
The Aam Aadmi Party had been claiming all along that there had been a boost to the revenue for the government under this new policy, right? You had on the 6th of August, Manish Sisodia holding a press conference where he then said, basically he put the blame at the door, as you are right now, of the previous Lieutenant Governor, saying that he was responsible for these irregularities, for a loss of revenue. So my question to you is then, is this not an admission that there was a problem? Because now after saying that it was always a great policy and there was no problem.
No, Sarah, let's be very clear. First of all, in the year 2021, due to Delhi's excise policy, we recovered 1,300 crores more than the previous year, just after 5 months of implementation of the excise policy. What started happening is that as against the target of 850 shops that were to open in Delhi, slowly, because of all these other threats and allegations that were happening, the players started to pull back because they were not allowed to open shop. Come July, only 250 shops were opened. And that is why I'm saying this is a systematic
these are two separate charges. This is not the corruption charge that the BJP is putting
No, corruption charge, they themselves, I think, are very confused because someday they are saying 8,000, Manoj Tiwari is saying 8,000 crore corruption scam. Some other leader is saying 1,100 crore. The LG is saying 140 crore. If you read the CBI, it says 1 crore is given by private party 1 to private party 2, basis what? Some sources. So that is...
Okay,
that
but
is
my point here is then there are two
laughable.
separate charges. One is about corruption and the other is the AAP now admitting that the policy wasn't as much of a golden egg, laid by a goose than as we had initially touted. But let me bring in Abhishek Dutt of the Congress. Abhishek Dutt, the Congress says that it welcomes this raid on Arvind Kejriwal. We saw the Congress today protesting outside his home. Is this not, narrow tunnel vision or a self-goal really? Because I ask that because the Congress claims that the central government is always using, misusing central agencies to target its political opponents, like the Gandhis in, the National Herald case, for example, but not against his other opponents. Are you not weakening the hand, the stand of the BJP, who's now going to say, look, agencies are actually doing their job. They are not being manipulated. They're not puppets. They're not caged parrots because they're doing their job without being manipulated.
Sarah, you've asked a very interesting question. Aam Aadmi Party till today has never taken step of a united opposition. They go and fight elections in Uttarakhand where they managed to get barely 6% vote. All the anti-incumbency vote of Bharatiya Janata Party gets divided. They go to Goa, they get barely 3 to 4% vote. They go to UP, they get less than Nota. So when you talk about collective opposition, these were the people who started a campaign in Delhi where they said Modi for PM and Arvind Kejriwal ji for CM. So you must understand what is their stand against Bharatiya Janata Party. Today, when they stand exposed, and I'll tell you, we've been demanding the CBI inquiry for the longest time. Mr. Anil Baijal, I can say it on your channel, is equally responsible as if Arvind Kejriwal ji. The Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson was asking, what are the discrepancies in this policy? I will give you straight issues. First of all, no manufacturer can run a shop, can be a retailer. In this policy, there is a manufacturer who's also a retailer. Nowhere in the country you'll see any manufacturer of alcohol company doing retailing. Second issue, one person can't own different liquor stores through different companies. The person who's accused in this FIR, Indo Spirit, his wife's family under Khelo Gali, He has opened up a dummy company to get another liquor license. I'll tell you the third point. Any liquor shop which has to be opened as a policy, a viability report has to be taken from the Delhi police along with the excise department to see whether there is any viability of opening up a liquor store. Jasmine Shah very clearly said, yes, they could not open up many liquor stores because the Swaraj model of Arvind Kejriwal ji till 2020 Vidhan Sabha election very clearly said that you can't open liquor stores without the local NOC. These people had opened up liquor shops in residential complexes, in areas falling 100 meters within temples, schools and educational institute. So obviously people of Delhi were on the road. In my own Vidhan Sabha, I got 4 liquor shops shut because they were opened up inside residential premises. So tell me something.
Right.
You have a checklist.
You say, I'll just come to you, Jasmine. Abhishek Dutt, just one more question. You say that, look at AAP stand. They've never spoken for opposition leaders or when raids are carried out against opposition leaders. But the Congress still hasn't been able to find your election process supposed to start today. We still don't have a name. Rahul Gandhi still says he's not going to take up the post of Congress chief. Who is AAP supposed to support? Who is AAP supposed to say, yes, we'll put their vote behind?
We are not a party like Arvind Kejriwal ji. Arvind Kejriwal ji's election system within Aam Aadmi Party earlier said every person will have a term. Now Arvind Kejriwal ji is undisputed president of Aam Aadmi Party. In Congress, there's internal democracy. Whether it is Mr. Rahul Gandhi, whether it is XYZ,
there's no
I'll complete, Sarah.
For anybody to come behind.
Sarah, I'll complete. We all have our personal opinions, but the debate today is specifically whether Aam Aadmi Party is involved in excise corruption. And on your channel, I can say it with full authenticity and have a discussion on any topic. I will ask straight questions to Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson. Can you tell me why 40 crore rupees are waived off on L1 license?
No,
why 140 crore rupees are waived off during COVID lockdown? What is the reply to that?
Can I please respond? Abhishek, I think I have been asked the question. I have been asked the question. Let me please respond. You can't keep talking all the time. Let me please respond.
All right, Jasmine,
you speak.
Please respond.
Sarah, I feel a little pity for Congress and I really wish they do well because a party that cannot select its own president or elect their own president for 4 years is trying to give vision to this country. Let me ask you, how many MLAs do you have in the Delhi Vidhan Sabha? There is a reason why the people of India have rejected you because on one side, this is not fair. Abhishek, I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you. You have to allow me to speak.
Abhishek, let him finish, please. You raised a lot of points about the policy. Let him finish. I asked you the same question. I asked you the same question that Jasmine Shah is asking, but let him finish. I'm sure he'll get to the points about the excise, the liquor policy also. Sarah,
the point here which Abhishek is making is that AAP does not stand for opposition unity. Let me remind him that every time the Aam Aadmi Party has been targeted in Delhi, not just in the case of this fraud excise allegations that are being made, over the last 7 years, every time the role of the elected government has been weakened. When the Lieutenant Governor was said to be the government of NCT of Delhi, it was Congress which first and foremost stood with BJP and cheered. Every time the LG would pull down the Mohalla Clinic scheme, CCTVs for women's safety, it would be the Congress which saying ki ye bahut acha hua, inko taakat mat do. So this is the reality of Congress. You have no right to preach about opposition.
Can I speak, Sarah? I have a lot of respect. Let me come on.
1 second.
You have no respect for elected government.
30 seconds and
now
then go across to Mr. Mahavar.
Coming to
yes,
Sarah,
last point on the policy.
I'll just come to you to Mr. Mahavar.
जी,
Sarah, I'll tell you.
कहना चाहता हूँ ये पूरा कुश्ती ये एक मिनट
मिस्टर महावर, अगर आप बात करना चाहते हो, प्लीज रिस्पॉन्ड अबाउट दिस होल न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स कवरेज. द बीजेपी नाउ, sometimes a few months ago there was that story, it was a fake story eventually about how
Prime Minister Modi was infected internationally.
नहीं, वो तो उस पर भी बोलूंगा. पहले जो बात अभी हुई उस पर पहले स्पोक्समैन जो है जैस्मिन शाह जी, मुझे आई वांट टू आस्क फ्यू क्वेश्चन टू हिम. मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूं, 5 नवंबर 2021 को केजरीवाल जी की अध्यक्षता में कैबिनेट मंत्री की बैठक हुई और उसमें जो हमारी कन्फॉर्मिंग एरिया थी उस पर शराब के ठेके खोलना अलाउ किया, हाँ या ना? अगर हाँ तो वो अपराध किया, उनके पास कोई राइट नहीं था। दूसरी बात, जो कंपनियां शराब उत्पादक हैं वो कंपनियां बेच नहीं सकती शराब। इन्होंने माउटुंगा एग्रो महादेव नाम की कंपनी से, ऐसे ये दिनेश मेहरा की अरोड़ा की कंपनी है जो खाओ गली, उसको इन्होंने दारू खुलेआम कानून का उल्लंघन किया है। इनसे जवाब मांगे, अगर ये प्रॉफिट में थे तो 144.36 करोड़ रुपया इन्होंने किससे पूछकर शराब माफियाओं को छोड़ दिया? इनसे पूछिए 50 रुपए पर केस इंटरनेशनल अल्कोहल ऑफ बियर इन्होंने छूट किससे पूछ के दी? इनसे पूछिए लाइसेंस फीस में कोरोना काल में ठेकेदारों को, शराब माफियाओं को छूट क्यों दी? इनसे पूछिए एयरपोर्ट जोन की कंपनी जिसके 30 करोड़ कब पहुंचाने चाहिए थे, वो इन्होंने कैबिनेट तोड़ के उसको रिफंड कर दिया। 30 करोड़ रुपए रिफंड कर दिया। किससे पूछ कर इन्होंने किया? ये सब एक बहुत बड़ा मकर जाल है इनका।
All right. Let's listen to Jasmine Shah. Go ahead.
Sarah, these are exactly the points that each BJP panelist, as a talking point for the last 2 months, they have been repeating this. Even though Aam Aadmi Party has clarified on each of these points, we categorically state that these are baseless allegations. And the reality of the matter is that this was never about excise policy.
This is on paper here.
आपको कल 31 रेड में क्या मिला? तो मिलना चाहिए था। इतना बड़ा स्कैम आपने पूरी ताकत डाल दी। दिल्ली के उप मुख्यमंत्री को आपने जेल में डालने की कोशिश करी, कुछ मिला क्यों नहीं? सो द रियलिटी ऑफ द मैटर इज इट्स नेवर अबाउट एक्साइज। दिस वाज अबाउट द न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स आर्टिकल दैट यू रेफर टू।
मैं कह रहा हूं जेल जाएंगे वो।
No, please don't interrupt me. Today, Aam Aadmi Party's governance model, education model, health model are being talked about globally. Never in the history of India has New York Times printed about any government of India's education system on the front page. They said that ये fraud news है. Let me show you something interesting today, Sarah, and to the viewers.
This is not news.
The Times of India has printed the same article because they have a license agreement with the New York Times. Now let Mr. Modi say Times of India is also paid news. Every paper that talks about government, Delhi government and Arvind Kejriwal's education model, if that is paid news, then please stop talking about any news. Please stop all the news channels, all the papers of the country. You cannot digest the fact that today Arvind Kejriwal is a man of action, a man of honesty, whose work is being appreciated by people across the country. He is the real target. He's admitted that he was
Aam Aadmi
targeted
Party
in
claims it's because ये जो coverage मिली है, international headlines जो वो they're bringing fame and glory to India by their education policy. इसीलिए BJP को they're not happy with this.
ये न्यूज नहीं है, ये लेख है, और सेम लेख एक साथ 2-3 अखबारों में, खलीज टाइम्स में भी है। तो एक साथ एक लेखक भेज रहा है। दिस इज पेड स्टोरी। ये इस पार्टी इसी पर चल रही है। ये पेड न्यूज पर चल रही है ये पार्टी, और एक साथ एक लेखक के द्वारा लिखी हुई 2 अलग न्यूज में नहीं छप सकती। ये खलीज टाइम्स में भी सेम डे छपी है, उसी राइटर के द्वारा छपी है। इसीलिए ये दिस इज नॉट ए न्यूज, ये पेड एक लेखक के द्वारा लिखी गई है जो अलग-अलग अखबारों में छपी गई है।
कंटेंट लाइसेंसिंग कहते हैं।
But the Times of India group, as he points out today, also has the same article. All right, I'll take that 30 seconds to you.
Sarah,
I'll take that 30 seconds to you.
We all know how articles are managed. Very recently in the
Vidhan. 30 seconds, please go ahead.
Sarah, then I can't put, you've given Aam Aadmi Party such a clear platform to make points which are not even valid.
You have 30 seconds, now you have 20.
Sarah, let Aam Aadmi Party take over that time also. What is the point of them giving wrong facts on a live debate where each and every fact is absolutely wrong? They're easily involved in the excise policy and they don't speak about excise and they talk about New York Times.
One thing, it's crystal clear that no party is in any position to take on the BJP given the strength that the BJP is at. For that, the opposition is going to have to come together behind one candidate, and that looks far easier said than done. Thank you all for joining us tonight on Left, Right and Centre.